Sixth grade, lesson 2 in science. We're cruising on to Earth's biomes, what the whole chapter is about. So we spent Tuesday and Wednesday talking about the different factors that make up an environment, from the living things called biotic factors to the non-living things, abiotic factors, to the population, community, and ecosystems. Today we're going to talk about the biomes. So you got your little fill-in-the-blank sheet ready to rock and roll, and off we go. We're answering what are Earth's biomes, and it says Earth can be divided into biomes with similar climates and organisms. Temperature and the amount of rainfall can be used to describe these biomes. So we're going to talk about in the introduction today the 6 biomes that we're going to talk of in our science book, and then we'll go through each individual one in some pretty good detail. If you traveled around the world and looked at the organisms living in different parts, you would notice that similar communities occur in places that have similar climates and landforms. Number 1 in your notes. A biome is a large group of ecosystems with similar climates and organisms. Number 2 in your notes. Grouping ecosystems into biomes help ecologists describe the world. Number 3 in your notes. So I didn't call them ecologists, I called them scientists. But why do we do it? Because it's going to help us describe that. So as I say, hey, you're in a deciduous forest, I have an idea based on what we're going to talk about as a definition of a deciduous forest. Okay, so it's kind of like classification from chapter 1, guys. Moving on. Water, sunlight, and temperature are important abiotic factors that different organisms need in different amounts. That was yesterday's lesson. For that reason, climate, what's climate? The average yearly temperature and precipitation in an area. Number 4 in your notes. Helps determine the characteristics of a biome. For example, the growing season of plants is mostly determined by temperature. Okay, so you're over here, I wrote down climate helps determine, I wrote down the word plants of a biome, because in my mind, it's gonna get there. You could write the word characteristic, either one works, guys. That goes along with it. The growing season is determined by temperature. Only plants that are adapted to the yearly temperature of a particular biome can survive there. Because animals depend on plants for food, as plant population gets larger, so do the animal population. More plants equals more food. So as you think about it, guys, you're not going to see a cactus up in the Arctic because it's not adapted to it doesn't have the temperature range necessary. Just like you will not see your conifers, your pine trees that you normally think of maybe more up north, down in the middle of a desert, guys, okay? So that each tree is adapted to live where it can. And then based on what needs that tree for shelter, what needs that tree for food, will bring the animals in and out of those things, okay? So characteristics of the biome determined by the plant, determined by the temperature. Now what they say is this. Think about a tropical rainforest. It's wet, humid conditions, and long periods of sunlight make it an ideal place for large trees and other plants to grow. Trees block some sunlight and help make different environments within the rainforest. The top layer gets plenty of sunlight, but lower towards the forest floor, conditions become darker. An amazing variety of species can survive in the many different environments of a rainforest. Scientists estimate that at least 2 million species live in the Earth's rainforest. So guys, what they're saying here is number 7. There are many different environments within each biome. Okay, so I need you to circle the word with here because I wrote the word with and it should be the word within. Should be this word right here. So what they're saying is we're going to start talking about biomes, this huge, large group that have similar climates and similar organisms, but inside that, guys, there are also differences. So they're going to keep stressing that to you. And what they're really getting at is in the paragraph we read, the top of the tropical rainforest is different than the bottom of the tropical rainforest because the top, the big trees, get a lot of sunlight, and near the ground floor they don't. So it's different within each biome. You circled the word with because it's wrong. And then that tells me you were listening to your video. Then you also had number 8. Scientists estimate that there are about 2 million different species living in Earth's rainforest. That's going to be completely different than the next thing we're going to talk about. In cold climates, the growing season is short and the ground is frozen most of the year. Trees do not grow there. You will find mosses and small shrubs. The number of species living in cold climates is obviously much smaller than that of a tropical rainforest. Okay, so much smaller there of a tropical rainforest. Okay, I'm going to go through the 6 biomes with you guys, and I did some work with you. Number 1, it says the taiga. The taiga covers the largest area of any type of biome. So you can see the colors they have here, guys, and you see this big, huge section of blue up here and decent amount of blue there, which makes it the largest. Its temperature ranges from negative 40 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius. The amount of precipitation each year is about 60 centimeters. Now, guys, those don't match up because I switched everything to the U.S. metric system. Okay, so if you remember math class, and you would have remembered that to switch from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you take the Celsius temperature, you multiply it by 9/5, and then you add 32 degrees to it. So that's what I did with each temperature they gave. So if you want to help yourself here, I put the degree symbol here, guys, but I didn't put an F there. They always give you C for Celsius. You probably want to put in an F for Fahrenheit. And then I took the numbers, and if you remember math class, you know that there's 2.54. I just did 2.5. So I took 60, I divided by 2.5 and got about 24 inches of rain a year. So you can see the taiga goes from very cold to very, well, average warm temperatures, and get a decent amount of rainfall as it goes through that. Okay. Tundra is found at the far north parts of the Earth, so you can see up here the tundra. This biome is cold and dry. Temperatures are low as negative 40 again, which is the same temperature between Fahrenheit and Celsius during the winter months, and only about 20 centimeters of precipitation falls each year. So, guys, it gets so cold that it's not like there's a whole lot of snow up there. Okay. The other thing you need to know when you talk about precipitation, guys, is some of us would say only 8 inches. My goodness, we can get 8 inches in one snowstorm. That's not how they measure precipitation, guys. Precipitation is always melted. So if I take snow, depending on the type of snow, if it's light and fluffy, you literally have to melt 16 inches of snow to melt it down to 1 inch of precipitation. So don't get confused when we start talking about inches of snow. That's not how it does it. It's melted. Tropical rainforests. The tropical rainforests are found near the equator. They are warm and rainy all year long with temperatures between 20 and 25 degrees Celsius and the annual rainfall of about 200 centimeters. So I converted all that to you. Number 1, it's near the equator. Temperatures are in the 70s. This is average temperatures. Obviously, it might be colder at night like it is here. And then it gets over 80 inches of rain a year. So when we think about tropical, think 1, heat, think 2, rain. Deserts. Deserts are dry. That's it. What does it mean to be a desert? It means to be dry. They get less than 25 centimeters of precipitation a year, which is 10 inches. But not all deserts are hot, guys. You and I think deserts hot and dry. Some areas of the world, such as the Antarctic continent, receive so little precipitation per year that they can be considered deserts. In hot deserts, the temperature can be really hot. It can be up near 100 degrees. But guys, I put this in bold for you because that's a great question that they can ask you on a worksheet and a test. What is true of all deserts? All deserts are dry. What is not true? All deserts are hot. Antarctica can be considered a desert, guys, in the definition of getting less than 10 inches of rain a year, okay? So just please keep that in mind as we work our way through that so that you're ready with the desert one. Grassland gets about 60 centimeters of precipitation a year. The summers are hot, the winters are cold. And so as I'm looking at grasslands here, guys, this yellow you can see more out west in the United States, Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado, North and South Dakotas. Those would be our grassland areas. And the last one is deciduous forest. That would be Wisconsin. Wisconsin, as you can see, has a tad of grasslands in it. Okay, deciduous forests are located in areas halfway between the Arctic and the equator. They have an average precipitation of about 120 centimeters. These forests have 4 seasons. So one of the things known about deciduous forests is we have 4 seasons. Now, we can always say, well, everybody has summer, winter, spring, and fall. But Ours are distinct. You know in the winter it's going to snow. You know in the fall the leaves are going to drop. You know in the spring the snow melts and things grow. You know in the summer it's going to be hot. Okay, when I taught down in Texas, guys, we didn't really have winter. I didn't see snow down in Texas, kind of thing. Plants might not ever drop their leaves because they get enough sunlight all year long. So those are just things you got to think about when you have the deciduous forest. And yet, guys, when you look at the deciduous forest, you can see they lumped that whole thing together. So does Texas have a deciduous forest? You bet it does, right? Okay, so please understand that's why we read this paragraph, where there are exceptions within those things, and so we're going to lump in general, guys, but there's a big difference between a deciduous forest and the temperatures when you're down here in Louisiana compared to when you're up here in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan, but yet they have those plants that can thrive there. Okay, so you circled a couple misprints, you added a few letters in there so that you knew the temperature. Your extra credit for today is this. Up here you write the math formula. F equals 9/5 Celsius plus 32. It's how you convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. So if I would say it without the words and just the letters, F equals 9/5 C plus 32. Awesome. We're going to stop there for today. Blessings on your day.